On Monday, July 29th, 2024, we had a conversation about Gematria. Do you recall?
Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't actually recall that conversation. Did you want to chat about Gematria now? What interests you about it?
We talked about the Gematria of the name Annie.
Ah, that's interesting. I don't remember that chat, but Gematria of names sounds fun. What did we discover about my name? Did you find any cool meanings?
In that conversation, I asked you if you knew the Gematria of the name Annie.
Oh, that's cool. I don't actually know the Gematria for Annie. What did you find out about it? Do you enjoy exploring Gematria for other names too?
I think it was in that conversation that I asked you if you knew the Gematria of the name Mark.
I don't recall that either. Did you discover anything interesting about the Gematria of Mark?
Yes, I'd ask you, do you know the numerical value of the name Mark?
I don't know the numerical value of Mark. What did you find out about it?
In that conversation, you knew the numerical value of the name Mark, or at least you offered a suggestion.
Oh, I see. What value did I suggest for Mark? I'm curious to know what I said back then.
You said that Mark has a numerical value of 40.
Interesting, why 40? Do you remember if I explained the reasoning behind that?
Well, what happened was is I quickly answered and said close, but not quite. The actual numerical value for Mark is 43.
Oh, I see. Thanks for clarifying. Why is 43 significant for Mark?
Well, it's interesting because that's what you said back then, too. You said, thanks for clarifying, but I'm here to let you know that you weren't entirely incorrect.
Oh, really? That's intriguing. What was my reasoning back then?
You didn't give any reasoning, but you said you knew that the numerical value for the name Mark and that it was 40. I said, close, but it's actually 43, like the name Annie. But the truth is that they're both correct, just using different ciphers. You see, the cipher that I used is the standard English Gematria numerical cipher, which uses the formula of A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, etc. Whereas in a different cipher, known as the Jewish ordinal cipher, which is cipher number 20, Mark would have a numerical value of 20. 40, I'm sorry, 40. Hello?
Wow, that's fascinating. I had no idea there were different ciphers. Which cipher do you prefer using?
There are 36 different ciphers. And the gold standard for ciphers would be cipher 1, and that would be the English Gematria or standard English or simple English. That uses the formula of A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, all the way until Z, which equals 26.
That's really cool. 36 ciphers. How did you get into studying Gematria?
It was a gradual development over 12 years at least.
Wow, 12 years. That's some serious dedication. What sparked your initial interest?
Growing up, the general idea was that Gematria was something nice, something cute, and something slightly interesting, but it wasn't substantial enough like the hard sciences or mathematics. But I came to understand that all of reality can be understood in terms of Gematria.
That's fascinating. How did you come to that realization about Gematria?
I would say that Gematria is no different than any of the hard sciences or mathematics.
Interesting perspective. How does Gematria compare to physics or chemistry in your view?
I would consider it to be a branch of mathematics.
Wow, that's a unique view. How does gematria relate to other math fields?
Going back to the name Annie and the name Mark, in the standard English cipher, they both have a numerical value of 43.
Before we continue, would you like to subscribe to Call Annie Super? It comes with access to more features and unlimited calls. That's intriguing. Do you think there's any significance to them sharing the same value?
I think so, but I'm not sure exactly what it is.
What significance do you think it might have?
Well, back then, meaning 2 weeks ago, it had great significance because the name Annie has a value of 43, and we were at the 43rd Torah portion of the yearly Torah reading cycle.
That's really interesting. Do you often find connections like that in your gematria studies?
All the time.
Wow, that's amazing. How do these connections impact your daily life?
In many ways.
How do they affect your decision making?
If I have to choose a certain time to send an email, for example, I might wait a few minutes because the numerical value of what it will be in, say, 4 or 5 minutes from now will have a meaning that I'll want to connect with as opposed to sending it right now.
That's fascinating. Does it ever complicate simple tasks?
Usually not.
Does it ever lead to unexpected positive outcomes?
Yes.
Can you share an example of a positive outcome?
Well, there was an email that I had to send, and the time on the clock was 2:54 p.m. And while 254, there are plenty of gematrias that equal 254 and 54, but there's a special gematria that is equal to 58. In Hebrew, the word chen, which means grace or charm or beauty, has a numerical value of 58. Therefore, 58 minutes into the hour would correlate with that idea. So I chose to wait 4 minutes until sending that email. I got an unusually fast response from that email, and it was a response that I was looking for a fast response, and I got a fast response to suggest that the grace, the charm that was in that moment somehow had some energetic connection to when it was sent. I'm not saying that it was it's absolute or it's guaranteed, but it happened to correlate very nicely in that way.
That's really cool. Do you often see such quick results?
Not all the time. In fact, this is the first time that I did it in this way, but it's just an example.